One of my favorite sayings, well, it's becoming one of my favorite sayings, is I could be wrong. I'm starting to use that, and I want to encourage you to do the same thing. Hi, I'm Christopher Thompson, and welcome to The Experience, where we reflect on the words and the work of Jesus Christ. We are counseled in the book Desire of Ages to spend a thoughtful hour each day reflecting on the life of Christ. And while we don't have a whole hour here, we're just using a few minutes. We uh, sit down on my favorite thinking chair and we talk about the words and the work of Jesus Christ. Today, I want to talk about something that is a great and difficult challenge. It's how we relate to others who have different views than us. Previously, we talked about 1 Corinthians. And Corinth was a metropolitan city, and in the midst of Christian community, there are there's a group of people who have shared values and shared principles and shared beliefs, but they struggle to merge their practices together. We got to figure out a way to give space to those who believe or to practice to work out their faith and practice things different than us. I want us to look at a very challenging text and one that Christians have wrestled with for generations. It's Romans chapter 14. And I want to read just a few verses. I want to encourage you to read the entire chapter and read it closely. But I want to read a few verses from Romans 14. Verse 5, Romans 14:5 says, "One person considers one day more sacred than another. Another considers every day alike. Each of them should be fully convinced in their own mind." And then verse, um, let's say verse 12 says, "So then each of us will give an account of ourselves to God. Therefore, let us stop passing judgment on one another. Instead, make up your mind not to put any stumbling block or obstacle in the way of a brother or sister." And then verse 22 and 23, the last two verses of the chapter, says, "So whatever you believe about these things, keep between yourself and God. Blessed is the one who does not condemn himself by what he approves. But whoever has doubts is condemned if they eat, because their eating is not from faith. And everything that does not come from faith is sin." It's a challenging text and one that causes us to wrestle quite a bit. That especially that final verse that says anything that's not of faith is sin. There's two main things that Paul is addressing in the text. The one being the eating of meat sacrificed to idols. Some Christian believers believed it was wrong. Other believers believed it was okay. Then there was the celebrating of feast days, the certain holy days. Judaizers believed that all the feasts ought to be kept, and the new Christians believed that they weren't as sacred. If we consider the other better than ourselves, if we practice the golden rule to do unto others as we would have them do unto us, if we uh, act according to our faith and let each person be persuaded in their own mind, sometimes that leads us to say, you know what? I could be wrong. That is, everybody doesn't have to think and practice exactly as I practice. I have a very strong commitment to faith. I trust that you do just the same. We won't always agree, but we should always agree about God's love. We should always agree about God's grace. We should always agree about the weightier matters of the gospel. Um, and there are some spaces where we don't always have to think, act, and practice our faith the same. This text always challenges me to allow space for others to work out their faith because I consider them more important and more valuable than me, and I want to treat them the way that I want to be treated. And And so that leads me to sometimes say, you know what? I could be wrong. But even if I'm not wrong, I want to give you space to get it right on your own terms and in your own time. And I think God smiles at us when we do that. Um, I want you to try it. Uh, I could be wrong. And give a person space and time. Listen, I wish we had more time, but I want you to come back next week, same time, same place, so that we can keep talking about the words and the work of Jesus. And remember, when you have an experience with Jesus, your life will be transformed forever.